Today you'll learn how to create quizzes for your Zoom meetings without using any additional software or app. For a long time, you couldn't create polls in Zoom that had a predetermined correct answer. Quiz questions were only possible if you used other software for it, like Kahoot or some other workaround. But that has changed now, and in addition, you can now use advanced polling features for your meetings that give you much more room for creativity. Let's take a look at these features now. Okay, first off, I have to admit, I stumbled across these new features more by accident during one of my personal Zoom training sessions with a client. For those who don't know, I am offering trainings in Zoom in which you can deep dive into certain features of Zoom or go through the best settings for your particular needs. But let's get back to the topic at hand. One reason why you might not have seen the advanced polling quiz features is that you have to explicitly activate these features, just like you need to activate other features in Zoom like breakout rooms or the old polls. Also, as with the regular polls so far, you need at least a Zoom Pro account to use these new features. When you go to the Zoom meeting settings, you'll see that a new checkbox has been added under the meeting poll quiz slider, and there you read allow hosts to set up advanced polls and quizzes. This is the feature that we want to enable. Now, for me, it was like this, and it may or may not be the same for you. For me, this setting was first locked by the administrator, so I could not activate the advanced polling functions at first. Should you have the same issue and you are in full control of your Zoom account, you need to first go to Admin, Account Management, and then Account Settings. There, you'll be able to check the checkbox I just mentioned. So this is just in case, you may not need that. Now we've enabled the advanced polling and quizzes feature and take a look at how it works. As before with the normal surveys, you first need to create a meeting, and then after clicking on save, you can see a new entry here at the very bottom of the page in these tabs. You can see that there's survey, but that's the classic Zoom poll that has been around for a few years now, and there's polls quizzes. That's the new advanced form that we're talking about here today. Now, Zoom tells me here that my participants will also need a new Zoom version if they are to be able to see these enhanced surveys. Specifically, your attendees will need to either have Zoom client version 5.8.3 or up, or they need to join your meeting via browser. So you need to make sure of that before your meeting starts. I now click on Create, and first I have to decide whether I want to use a poll or the advanced poll and quiz function. Here you should choose the second option, because with the first one, you will practically get back to the previous simple polling form that we already know. With the advanced polling option, you have more choices than before when you click on the drop down in the upper right corner. We already know single choice and multiple choice, but until now, we lack the option to mark one or several answer choices as correct. Now we can do exactly that. So I create my survey question here as always, also with some answer choices. And now I click on the ellipsis here and I can allow anonymous answering for the poll questions. And more importantly, I can turn the survey into a quiz. With that, I can mark which answer is the correct one or the correct ones. In single choice, of course, only one answer can be correct. In multiple choice, we can choose several correct answers. Then click Done and the answer is saved. Another new feature is that you can now upload a picture which will then be displayed along with the poll question. This is elementary for many quiz questions, so it's very nice that Zoom added this. Now let's take a look at this from the participant's point of view in the meeting. I'll now start my survey as the host, and my colleague Max is in the meeting via browser as a normal participant. And he now chooses an incorrect answer for question 1, and for the second question he chooses the correct answer. Now, Max as a participant can't see yet if his answers were right or wrong, but we as a host can show that to him. We get to that towards the end of the video. Because first I want to show you the other new polling types. With matching, you can set multiple prompts and possible answers. Now that sounds familiar for me from language classes. For example, when participants have to combine certain sentence components in a way that they make sense. So this polling form is definitely great for teaching. With the rank order polling feature, you could let your participants evaluate a product or use Zoom sessions with regard to various criteria. I recommend that when you prepare a rank polling order, you click on the ellipsis so that you get a preview of how your participants will see this matrix during the meeting. If you like, you can also set answers as correct here, and you could use that for a single choice test with several questions on a single survey page. Next, there's short answer and long answer, and frankly, I haven't really noticed any difference between the two. I think it's only the size of the text field. This feature is for open-ended questions, so that's questions which we want participants to answer by writing a text on their own. You can set a minimum and maximum number of characters that can be entered by the participants. With the fill in the blank option, you have your participants complete a gap in a sentence. Again, this makes me think of language classes where you have to use a verb in the correctly conjugated form, but there's of course dozens of other use cases for this. And finally, we have the rating scale. This is where participants can assign a score on a scale. You define the size of the scale and what each end of the scale stands for. You could use it for the classic Net Promoter Score evaluation question. How likely is it that you would give this video a thumbs up? Now I have created a survey that contains all these new polling features. For some of them, I have provided a correct answer, or in other words, I made them a quiz. For others, I haven't. My coworker Max has now answered all the questions in the survey, and I, as the host, can decide whether or not to publish the answers in the Zoom meeting. Of course, that is a bit pointless with only one participant, but with larger groups, you can see the whole answer behavior of the group, and it might be very insightful. This option, of course, already existed in the old Zoom service, but the new thing here is that now I can also display the correct answers to the participants. And they will also immediately see color marked whether their answer was correct or not. And last thing to know about the new polls, I can also click here to go directly to a results page, which shows me the results of my polls in the meeting, even after my Zoom meeting is over. So that was a lot of new stuff on Zoom polls and quizzes. I hope this will help you for your next Zoom meeting. If it does, I'd be super happy if you could give this video a thumbs up. More tutorials in English about Zoom and about other software are on their way. Thanks for watching.